friends, today I'm gonna recommend you 10 books for the 10 tracks from the AGUST D mixtape in honor of Yoongi's birthday. So here we are with another BTS video, but this will be the last one in a little while. Today is Yoongi's birthday. I love Yoongi so much and I am so excited to do this video today. Again, me and a couple of booktubers have come together to do a video in honor of a member's birthday, and today we are going to do 10 book recommendations for the 10 tracks on the AGUST D mixtape. AGUST D is kind of like another persona for Yoongi, and we did like Hope World recommendations for Hobie's birthday. We did so many things for all the other members' birthdays. Well, we started in December, but you know, and we did the Map of the Soul 7 book tag. So in case you're interested, you can check all of these out. In case you're not interested, or you're just kind of like, you know, I know a lot of people who are not into BTS still kind of enjoy these videos just because it's like me talking about books and recommending books. But if you are kind of like getting tired of them, I will say that the next member's birthday is in September, so we have a couple of months until then. I'm sure there will be a couple of videos, you know, in between that are somehow BTS related, but for now there's not like anything scheduled, so you got that. But whatever, that doesn't matter today, because today I am excited to talk about something BTS related. And I mean, this is one of those things. AGUST D, the mixtape, is very different. So if you do not enjoy BTS's music, you might still enjoy the AGUST D mixtape. So just putting that out there, leaving a Spotify link in the description down below. This mixtape is very autobiographical. It's just very much like Yoongi's story, and a lot of the things are very specific and like him kind of like telling us a story and telling things that happened to him. So sometimes it was kind of easier because I just kind of took things completely out of context, and then sometimes it's just same old struggle. Some tracks are harder than others, but I am really happy with the final choice that I have, and I'm just gonna get into it because we're always long-winded and it's 10 tracks. So first off, we have the intro, and then right after we have AGUST D. And I decided to go with a duology for these two tracks because, first of all, intro to me very much is a song that just, like an intro is kind of supposed to be, you know, sets the mood and the vibe for this whole entire mixtape. And then on top of that, the intro is very much, you know, like AGUST D sampled. So I decided to just go with two books that very much fit together, but that for me also fit the vibe of the mixtape and also the vibe of these songs. So I decided to go with Vicious for intro and Vengeful for AGUST D. Now, I think AGUST D, funnily enough, is the song that I struggled with the most, because to me, it's just such a diss track, and I was like, how do I find a book that's a diss track, basically? And so these two books are what came to mind. If there are books out there that I have read that somehow, you know, remind me of a diss track, give me diss track vibes, it's these books. And I think Vengeful even more so than Vicious. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of Vengeful, I'm gonna put that out there quite honestly, I still just think like when it comes to representing the track and the mixtape as a whole, this book is such a good fit. And again, like I just kind of wanted to have two books that fit together for intro and AGUST D, and I just think that, you know, this, like Vicious as a whole, as a book, definitely fits the mixtape, and then just Vengeful as a book is to me a diss track in bookish form, and that fit AGUST D for me. So I just decided to go with these two books. This goes back to me during the Hope World recommendations. Reading these books while listening to those two tracks and while listening to this whole mixtape, for me, fits perfectly. And if that is a thing, I'm very happy. Now, for Give It To Me, I very much kind of looked at the aspect of the song where he talks about the fact that he doesn't know success, he just knows failure, but like that's what makes him better, and that he is just very much aware of how far he can fall, and that is such an advantage for him, and that other people can run their mouth about like how, you know, how much of a failure he is. Like at the end of the day, he like knows the very bottom. That's what makes him strong, and that is what he grows from. And so I decided to go with The Cool Prince by Holly Black. I think that this is very much Jude's story. I think that Jude very much, hits a bottom just as a person in this fairy world, and she just knows there's no way for me to go any lower than I am right now, and she just decides to choose the path upwards, and she just decides to become really powerful. And I think that one of the reasons why she ends up, being very successful with the things that she does is because she knows failure well, and it is because she's also not afraid of failure because she's used to it and she knows it. And I think that is what makes her such a strong character, and I think that's also what makes her successful, especially in the course of this trilogy. So I really loved this choice, and I think that Jude is just such a badass. Maybe this is not necessarily a book that I would read while listening to this mixtape, but for sure does this whole mixtape have Jude vibes, 100%. Next we have the skit, and yes, we did decide to include the skit in this video as well. Now, at first I wanted to choose a sibling relationship because the skit is basically just a recorded conversation between Yoongi and his older brother, and how his brother always believed in him, and that is how Yoongi was able to come as far as he has. And so I was kind of thinking of just choosing a strong sibling bond, but instead I decided to go with a book where there's also someone who very much just ends up being successful and, just putting themselves out there because other people believe in them. And that is Geek Girl by Holly Smale. Now, this is the most non-August D book I could find on my whole shelf. This whole series is so happy and fluffy and a little bit silly. It definitely has its sad and devastating moments, especially towards the end. But overall, this is just a silly, fun series. But it also goes deep, and I love this series so very much, and I think that it is underrated. It is written by a UK author. I don't even think that it's published in the US. And I just think that a lot of people are very thrown off by these covers. And surely the first one or two books read a little bit younger, but I'm so glad that I read this series, and I truly, truly love this series. And Harriet, the main character in this, she really goes on this path and has this whole model career just because someone believed in her. And then on her whole path, it's her family and friends who support her, who believe in her, and that is how she ends up being able to succeed. She has so little faith in herself, so little. And throughout the series, she grows and she learns to believe in herself and have that faith in herself. But I don't think that she would have that. She surely wouldn't have that, or it definitely would have taken her a longer time if she didn't have all of these people around her just believing in her, and also at the same time not, wanting her to change. They believe in her and they love her and appreciate her just the way that she is, and that's kind of how she grows. And so I decided to go with this book for the skit. The next track is 724 or 148. I just decided to say it like that because I know that the title of the song is inspired by two bus lines, so I'm just putting it together like that. This is definitely another one where I took off so many layers of this song and so many, specific aspects of Yoongi's story, and just decided to look at this very basic story of this boy who came into this big city, and life definitely wasn't easy, but he came there because he had a big dream, and he ended up making that big dream come true. So for that, I decided to go with Echo After Echo by Amy Rose Capetta, another book that I just very much love and always like to put out there because it is such an underrated book with a female romance, and it is really, really beautiful. And the main character, who's also relatively young, moves to New York to be in a play on Broadway, which is a huge thing. And she definitely doesn't struggle as much with the city life and the big city life and the fact that it's expensive and stuff like that. What she does struggle with is kind of just this theater life. She very much struggles to really fit in there, to really understand what is happening around her, and also she very much fights to be treated right. And I just very much like that for this song, even though, again, these are the very basics of this song. This is very basically what this song kind of represents and puts out there. Every book that's gay that I can recommend in these videos has an advantage, and that's the case with Echo After Echo. But it truly is a beautiful book, and it is also a murder mystery, so we have that going for it as well. But I just, again, really, really love it. And it is about, you know, like struggles of being in a big city and just finding your place in the city and in this big dream you're trying to achieve. Next we have 14:05:03 at Dawn, which is definitely a song that I didn't really pay much attention to beforehand. I didn't really expect much from those lyrics either, but when I did read those lyrics, whew, they fucked me up quite a lot. And this is actually a book choice that I'm so happy with. I've kind of been trying to make this book happen for one of these videos, and I'm so glad that it is finally its time. And yeah, I think it's one of my favorite choices I've done for any of these BTS book recommendation videos. For this song, I decided to choose The Archived by Victoria Schwab, another one of my favorite books of all time, a book that means a lot to me as well. And for me, this is the perfect choice because, you know, the lyrics are about how he feels disconnected from the world, how he kind of has these masks and, you know, hides himself from the world, from other people, doesn't really like to, you know, put himself out there at all, even kind of develops this like social phobia because of all this, how people start becoming distant because of how he is kind of like being distant, and that he pretends not to be lonely and builds this wall around him, but at the end of the day he's also really scared of being abandoned. And like basically everything that I just said can be said for the main character in this book. She experienced a really big loss in her life, and there are so many factors to this loss. There is obviously the fact of just losing this person, but there's also the factor of like she has this job of, you know, protecting these dead people's souls, very briefly explained, and she has to keep that a secret. And with her grandfather dying and losing this person, not only does she lose this person that she loved so much, but what she also loses is a person to share this world with, a person to, you know, talk about this world with. And now she's basically by herself and just kind of, you know, being really overwhelmed with the pressure of it all and not really being able to talk about it with anybody. She is so scared to open up to people. She has built this wall around her. And there's this really great quote in this book where it kind of says like, the thing about building walls around yourself is not only that you won't let other people in, but it also means that you can't get out. And this whole song just screamed this book to me, because I just think that this whole song is so much the story of this main character, of Mackenzie, and it makes me sad, but it also makes me incredibly happy because, again, I love this book a lot and I really, really wish that people would give it more chances. It's a beautiful character development and just a really, really strong character in general. The next song, The Last, is a song that so much deals with mental illness and all the different aspects of mental illness. And I actually haven't read that many books about mental illness, which is funny to me considering that it's a topic that is very important to me, and it's a topic that I actually very much like reading about, but then at the same time I feel like I'm also very picky when it comes to this topic. So one of the books that I thought dealt with mental illness in a really, really interesting way, and also a book that to me definitely has the last vibes, is The Wicked King by Kay Ancrum. Now, I think it is hard to talk about this book, to go into detail why I choose this book, but again, I just think that, you know, just as this song just deals with a lot of mental illness in general, that is definitely what this book does. You know, literally has pages that get darker as you go on in this book, as the main character just gets worse and worse and worse. And I just think that it is such a fascinating way of storytelling and such a fascinating way to approach potential mental illness. That's the thing. We don't really know what's going on in this book, but I don't know, just immediately reading the lyrics and looking at my bookshelf, The Wicked King just kind of fell into my hands, because I think it's just one of those books that's, first of all, just very dark, but also just like through and through deals with mental illness and deals with people's hardships. And so that was very much the last for me. And so I just really, really wanted to go with this book because, again, it's the vibe as well. Definitely would listen to this mixtape while reading The Wicked King. Like, actually, I love that. I love that. I would love that experience. Now for Tony Montana, I did another one that's a little bit of a reach and also a book that I have done before, but just kind of looking at the lyrics, looking at how it is a story of someone who's like, you know, at the bottom and ends up being able to go to the top, and also like knowing about the fictional character Tony Montana and that he was a Cuban refugee that ended up working his way towards becoming like a powerful drug lord. And also just the lyrics talking about how, you know, like, I do things for my family and friends and for my team. I decided to go with Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. Now, Tony Montana was another song that I just found incredibly hard, even though I'm like, it shouldn't be that hard to find like a rags to riches story, right? Like, it really, really shouldn't be. But somehow I did. And so when I just looked into who was actually Tony Montana, you know, who basically inspired this song, and I just read about this story and that he was a refugee and he became a drug overlord, and just like how it's like actually obviously like a terrible story, but at the same time it also has like such badass vibes. I was just like, that's Six of Crows for you, my dudes. I don't know, I can't even really explain it, but again, even just like in the lyrics, kind of something being mentioned about like a team and doing this for my family and friends, like this found family aspect that I always like to have in these tags, because that's just so very much BTS. I just thought that Six of Crows was a choice that was kind of right there. Again, a little bit of a reach, a little bit of a stretch, but definitely one that I'm happy with at the end of the day. Then for Interlude Dream, obviously we do not have any lyrics, so I very much just had to go with the vibe of this song, which this song and Blue Side, they are like twins to me and I love it. So I almost choose what I choose for Blue Side, but ended up not going with that, because for me definitely, you know, what I choose for Blue Side fit with the lyrics and the vibes of the lyrics as well. Whereas again, this one doesn't have lyrics, but it is a very melancholic, very atmospheric, very short, but again, very, very atmospheric song, and obviously has this dream theme. So I decided to go with a book that not only for me fits the vibe, but also that sometimes definitely reads like a dream. I chose Jane Unlimited by Kristen Kashaw, and this is about a girl who, you know, ends up kind of seeing 5 different futures and 5 different alternate realities depending on a certain decision that she makes. This book is just a little bit wild, a little bit weird for sure, but again, there are many parts that read very dreamlike. There are, you know, parts that are very realistic that she experiences. There are parts that are completely freaky. But again, it's a dreamy book to me for sure. And it's just a book that to me has very much vibes that are more melancholic and nostalgic somehow than like happy fluffy vibes. And also I think just the main character's thoughts and the main character's attitude just feels very chill and again just melancholic in some way. So to me, you know, with the whole dreamy atmosphere on top, this book really, really fit that song. And this is another book that is so fucking underrated. This is another book that has a female romance. So I'm like, fuck yeah, love to put it on this list. And finally, for So Far Away, I definitely didn't focus as much on the actual content of the lyrics, but I just focused on the vibe, which to me is very much like, you know, a lot of hopelessness. I think that the lyrics are very sad and heavy, but then we definitely have a lot of like hopefulness in there too, and we definitely get to more hopeful parts and just this kind of thinking of like things will get better eventually. To me, a book that very much perfectly represents the vibe of those lyrics and also perfectly represents the vibe of this song is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. This is a YA book about a girl that goes to conversion therapy, and there's lots of stuff going on before she goes to conversion therapy, but like that's kind of the big main theme of this book. And so it is definitely about a girl who sometimes just kind of doesn't really see her way in life at all, just because of where she grows up and her, you know, being gay. And it just feels like very much a hopeless story, and definitely it is a very, very heavy story, and it's just very much this character just really not knowing where to go, and all these things that she experiences are just so heavy and weigh on her so much. But then at the end of this book, we definitely have a lot of like hopefulness in it too. And I think that this book is a book that just definitely is a really heavy reading experience, and I definitely think you should like go into this prepared. But I think that at the end of the day, it is also a book that leaves you with not necessarily even a good feeling, but just this feeling of like knowing things will get better, and just knowing that tomorrow is a new day, and you know, eventually things just will get better and things will feel better, which reminds me of 0 O'Clock. Oh my god. I just very, very much love this book for this song, because again, it is not only kind of the vibe of the lyrics and the vibe of the story that Yoongi is trying to tell in this song, but also the vibe of the song for sure. This listening on repeat and reading this book, oh no, I actually don't want to experience that, because that would be entirely too sad and heavy. So yeah, these were my 10 book recommendations based on Yoongi's mixtape August D. I hope you enjoyed this list. As always, links to everybody else who participated and the playlist link will be in the description down below. So please check out everybody else's videos. Again, we now have a couple of months before the next BTS member's birthday, but I am already excited for what we're gonna do for JK's birthday. Hey, you know what? Maybe by the time JK's birthday comes around, we actually have a JK mixtape. Wouldn't that be fun? Wouldn't that be fun? Anyway, that's some Delulu shit. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you got where I was coming from, if you liked my choices, and yeah, I make new videos at least once a week, so click subscribe to never miss anything and hit the little bell so you get notified as well. And thank you so much for watching. I guess I'll see you soon.